Hello, Brittany. How are you?
Hello, sir. I'm doing really good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm just checking on my phone to make sure that we are live.
Perfect.
It looks like we are. It looks like people are able to watch whatever nonsense we have to say to each other in the privacy of their own home. Look at that. Can you see that? Isn't that cool?
Awesome. Great. Looks
All
like
right.
we're ready to roll.
Looks like we're ready to roll. Okay, one more thing just before.
Oh, sure.
It's been quite a day. It's been quite a day. People of the
Oh,
world, it's been a day.
it has
It's been a
been
day.
an extremely eventful day.
What has happened today?
Well, if you watch the news a little later, you might see where a pedestrian was struck near a
Oh,
construction site that happens to be right outside of my front door, and it was a very big ordeal, and I think
oh no. On Victory?
we're close to it. hmm
Oh shit, I didn't hear that happened.
It was wild. It
Is
was,
that happened today?
yes.
Damn, I'm bummed to hear that.
Yeah.
Along with
And
everything else
and
going on.
other things. I know. So an eventful day, but a good day. I'm really grateful for you for arranging us and setting us up for
Yes,
chit chat tonight.
absolutely. I'm sort of in a daze. I mean, I think I was telling you, and I'll let anybody else know who's cares to be watching this right now. I was out handing signs on my awesome campaign yard sign bicycle, and I was out in the Live Oak neighborhoods and beyond that, beyond B Road, which is it's beautiful neighborhoods over there. They've got tree canopies. There's just people outside, painting their windows, and I mean, it's just a beautiful little day. Um, and then I was like, oh my God, I have to go set this up with Brittany. So I biked right back.
I'm so
So
glad you remembered. Thank you.
I know I looked at my phone because I was like, oh, time doesn't exist. And then I was like, oh wait, actually I have a date. All right. So I guess without further ado, hello Facebook, hello Brittany. Welcome to Chit Chat Civics, where we talk with local leaders and interesting people about ideas and explore just really a variety of topics. We may have a bit of an agenda to sort of talk about today, but if we decide to veer off that agenda, no big deal. This is pretty much kind of a safe space for exploring ideas and having a conversation. You're a very cool person who's done some really amazing and pretty incredible things. Um, Only in the time that I've known you, and I know you've been doing really awesome stuff for much longer than that. So I guess we just sort of jump in, and I'd like you to sort of say, who are you, Brittany, and why are you here talking to me today?
I'm someone who uncovered what I think is a combination of everything that meets the crossroads of a skill, an interest, a hobby, and a passion that was sort of unlocked about 5 years ago. And it led to me starting a business called InkyBrittany. And it's taken me a lot of places. And I was thinking back to whenever you and I first met in the Emergent Savannah days in 2015 and 16. And that was really when things were getting off the ground. And I was on the stage for the first time documenting meetings, capturing, immortalizing, listening, and while listening, combining drawing to document these public conversations.
That was the first time? Just a minute. I think we're getting some weird little glitchy things. Let me fix something real quick.
Okay.
For everybody watching online, give us like 20
Okay.
seconds. It's happening in real time, so I say, things are bound to happen. Things are bound to happen in the weird.
Are always going to happen, aren't they?
They are. All right, so you're not going to be able to see us for about 5 seconds, but you can still hear us. And I don't want to do that. I want to do A window capture. I want to do sometimes this thing when I do a window capture, which is how I get this streamed onto Facebook, it goes a little bit nuts. So all right, that's starting to look less weird.
You can rarely have a solid call without having at least one little problem.
Yeah, and the problems are good. They help you learn. This is all about learning. And all right, I think we're good to go.
Are we back in biz?
We are back in biz. Look at that. Look at that. All right. Okay. I think we're ready to go again.
Okay.
I'm sorry for that rude interruption of technology. So I think you were talking about the Emergent Savannah times. When was that? That was back in like
2015.
Yeah, I was going to say 2015. And Emergent Savannah, which was like a ragtag group of amazing people, a lot of young people, really. I think we were convening meetings on a variety of topics up at the Bean for a good like 2 years or so.
We had a really awesome run there, and at the time, I wasn't even living back in Savannah. I was still living out of town in my previous location in
I remember that.
Georgia, and I was coming home to do these Emergent Savannah events. And I feel like if it hadn't been for that gathering, there are so many people today that I probably wouldn't have crossed paths with, who are the really innovative movers and groovers. And I think that just helped us get to know each other. And I don't know if you remember it, but I came up to you like at one of the events and I was like, I think I'm about to probably make a move back here. And I really like your energy and what you're up to. And I feel like it really, this whole energy was pulling me back home.
I remember that.
Yep.
Because I was like, what is Brittany doing? Why is she doing what is she, I remember that very clearly. I was like, who is that? Why is she drawing? And what is she drawing and why? And then I remember, we had our session, whatever it was, and I think I was really busy doing something, so I didn't really have time to like watch you actually in action at that first time. And then when it was done, it was like, look what I made. And I just remember being like thunderstruck. I was like, this is very cool stuff. This can help people really see what we're talking about, and I was just like, I was blown away. From there, I was just like, okay, I get it. I see the value of this immensely. And it's been really cool watching, honestly, I think like the both of us kind of grow and achieve whatever goals we're trying to aim for personally. Where were you before? Where did you move from?
So I was living in Milledgeville. I went to college at Georgia College and never thought I'd stay for longer than a semester. And I wound up living there for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I was working for the Citizen Advocacy Organization in Milledgeville. Then a lot of people are familiar with the Chatham-Savannah Citizen Advocacy Organization here. But there was an office in Milledgeville, and that was my first job when I graduated. And I just had a wonderful life there. It was small. It was easy to see how the local government interacted with the university, interacted with the churches, it was just a beautiful playground to get introduced to public processes and organizing. It was just a wonderful era. And that's what I was up to. And, in 2016, the time had just come to just see what could happen, if I had just 110% of my energy to go towards graphic facilitation.
And so you made that switch. That was all part of the same. Like you moved, you focused on the new InkyBrittany business, graphic facilitation, and the kind of Emergent Savannah was happening in and around there as well. All right. Yeah. That makes sense.
No, I've said that a lot, like Emergent Savannah, Georgia College, an organization called Georgia Microboards. There were a couple of ones in the beginning that were like, oh, we want this. We don't just want it one time for a one one hit one day thing, but we want to build this into how we are meeting with each other and how we're thinking together and working together. And that was a time of just great, like still greatly like appreciative for, the people in the beginning who like were supportive and valued it really, and didn't just say, oh, here, you can come get exposure. They're like, wow, we
Yeah,
value this a lot. And that meant sincerely a lot, and it does.
that's very cool. That's
Mhm.
very cool. I mean, it's cool to, do something and see your work valued. There's very few better feelings than that. So tell me more about the citizen advocacy, both in Milledgeville and then also maybe some of the work you've done here.
Yeah, so I was just working at a coffee shop, and I met Margaret, who brought me into the work, invited me into the work, and I had some really eye-opening experiences because we grow up so absolutely segregated from people with disabilities, physical disabilities, and intellectual disabilities. Very, very few of the average person on the block has any idea the level of just loneliness and boredom and repetitiveness and control. Like I was coming out of living in Savannah, had a beautiful growing up, here. I didn't know what a group home was. I've never
Hmm.
heard, that if you're someone who doesn't have a strong support system or family members or a spouse or a mom to have your back, you find yourself completely surrounded by people whose jobs and whose paychecks are connected to your care.
Yeah.
And it ends up being a whole lot more about pushing paper and checking boxes and prioritizing, the most devalued people who are said to have extremely complex or extremely complicated disabilities. Um, really find themselves in some very dangerous situations. And so that was so eye-opening to have those experiences as my first job. And of course, it was through that I sort of discovered graphic facilitation is a field. And over time, since I've moved back to Savannah, I'm on the citizen advocacy board here now, not in a
Hmm.
staff capacity now. But I feel like when I first discovered that work, I felt like I just sat down at a table that I'm just probably not going to be getting up from. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love that. I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm going to steal that.
Well, and the cover dish supper would be happening around this time of year if it weren't for the
Oh,
pandemic. And I think of that every single
oh,
year at the cover dish.
how sad
I
is me.
clearly my first experience there being like, I'm here.
I,
I'm not gonna
yep.
leave this table. Yeah.
I agree with you. I remember my first covered dish, and I was like, "Oh, I don't think I knew what power really was until a covered
I
dish
don't think I
supper."
knew it was possible. I don't think I
Yeah,
knew it was possible to see people who are considered to be the most influential, prestigious, top shelf people in Savannah be asked and willingly choose to support and spend their time with, and get very concerned and get very upset over seeing the way that people are treated. Not necessarily because people have any, sometimes it's not because people have bad, harmful intentions, but people just get lost without having a friend. And in this
yeah,
citizen advocacy, it's like, wow, these are the people who you would think, oh, those folks, they wouldn't have any interest in this. They people like that don't hang out with people like that. It's like, no, they do.
yeah.
And they have been for a long time. So powerful stuff.
Powerful stuff. That's one of my favorite things about citizen advocacy is just listening to stories. I mean, I was talking to, handing out signs today. I ran into a neighbor, a good friend, who is still like in active conversations with his advocate or citizen or whatever that relationship
The
is.
person you match with, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, that is so cool. And honestly, that person is one of my is one of my favorite people because we get to talk about transit whenever I get to hang out with him. And I'm like, great. Somebody wants to talk to me about transit for hours on end. Hello, let's do it.
So beautiful, man.
I'm
It's so
down.
beautiful. It's so beautiful. The quilt, the patchwork, the beautiful just fabric of people. Um, that converge in that room, you know, for
Yeah.
that annual event, and who are connected in that way all through the year. But it's good stuff, man.
I wanted to talk with you more about InkyBrittany, because if you started that in 2005, then that
Oh,
means that you're
I
coming
was
upon.
I was a baby 18-year-old graduating in 2005. But
Oh my
so in
God. 2015.
2015.
Excuse me. I apologize to 18-year-old Brittany. In 2015, you started InkyBrittany, which means you're coming up on your 5-year anniversary.
It's here. Here we are.
That's exciting. I'm going to send you a balloon.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Probably more. But tell me about that. Like, what is it like, doing that for 5 years? Are you doing anything special? Is there a specific date? I mean, I know it's all crazy now.
Listen, I have been waiting to talk about this since before the holidays last year. That the main thing that's been on my mind is this 5-year milestone is coming up. And the way that I want to celebrate was to have to create to have, when I hang at the Sentient Bean downtown, like,
Oh, I know.
and so I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool?
That's the table you sat down on and never got up from.
That's the
You're
truth.
always
That's
down
the
there.
truth. But I wanted to have a way to hang and show and display and say, hey, this is. So then COVID happened, and I just didn't want to miss the opportunity. Now, I was saying earlier today, now we have a different sort of set of ways that we're doing things, but we got to use those to the best of our abilities.
Yeah.
So I went ahead. I created a brand new set of pieces that nobody has ever seen before. The show will go on after whenever it is finally safe for us to, be out in public again. But so this is an extremely big moment. And so for the 5-year anniversary show, I guess I'm just kind of casually calling it, I wanted to do pieces that were ranging from local to like big international global topics. And I also really wanted them to keep the theme of highlighting people who are doing good civic work, who are serving their communities in public health or education or environmental, whatever ways. So that was kind of my thinking about how I chose to select the stories. And throughout the last 4 and 5 weeks, the plan kind of changed about what is eventually going to go up. Some new opportunities came up that I am excited to share. So yeah, that is tonight, May 1st would have been.
Wow.
I don't know if you have ever had something in your life where you wake up every single day and before you even open your eyes and get out of bed, you know exactly what day it is because you know how many days left you have to get to this. I mean, I've just been in that mode. So
today, May 1st.
Right now, 6 o'clock, we'd all be having our hummus and wine at the Sentient Bean. And
Aww.
people will be able to see, again, I can't really speak right now on when, but when we're able to, the pieces will hang there. And you can go and see them up close. And
so you've sent me some of these, and it's possible with this technology that we have that I can pull them up somewhere around or behind us. Should I do that? Should I do that nowish?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, then what I may do is, all right. So everybody who's watching this, work with us through this. This is new territory. We ain't done stuff like this before. All right. So in the meantime, Brittany, I think if you you tell us the story.
Okay, I'll tell you while you're working on pulling up these graphics. I'll give you
a very complicated
short overview of the graphics that you're going to be.
Which one do you want to pull up? I've got one on Oceania and one on 5.
Do the Oceania one first.
All right, great.
So again, when I was thinking about what stories to select, I thought about mover shaker people I really admire, and Paulita Bennett Martin, who is so
amazing
person, and
amazing
enough to sit down with me for a few minutes and tell me about her work with Oceania. And as we talked and I started getting more of the story, it seemed like just the global plastics crisis and helping people understanding that recycling efforts are not are there's very small compared to it's just not a good idea. We need to be focusing on to completely eliminating the manufacturing of plastics. And so anyways, the mural that I created, there's a section on it where one of the facets of the story that I really wanted to tell is these sort of new industries that are emerging first at very local levels by their individual city, but I think they're gaining a lot of momentum and kind of maybe coming towards that tipping point. And the stuff that we all kind of know about a little bit, like reusable packaging services where you use your products and then you put the packaging back, you mail it, and they send you clean, fresh ones. There's a section on the graphic that is all about policies that have been implemented in different cities, bottle exchange programs. And so just paints kind of a broad picture of good information to be thinking about. And I don't know if how's it coming on your end with the screen share feature?
Good. I'm going to make this window a little smaller. I don't know if you can see this on Facebook, but what we've got now is there's a tiny window. I bet we look funny doing this. There's a tiny window, and then behind it is the graphic, and we are in the tiny window, and whoever is speaking is in the window. So I'm in the window now, and if you speak, you'll be in the window.
Okay.
Yourself.
But the picture is up?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's the Oceana graphic, and when it's on display in person, of course, you'll be able to see it in much more detail. I haven't posted it yet on any of my social media pages. This is really sort of the first time that anybody other than me has laid eyes on it, except like one other person. But that was the first one. And should we go ahead? I guess can you pull that down and pull up the second one?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of looking at this now, like I can kind of see. So it's like Oceana. So like, I mean, it always kind of feels like your work has a bit of a flow to it. Is that, so you kind of start on the left hand side and then you go up and around.
I have tried over the last few years and have gotten much better with using different mapping and visual organization sort of layouts, the use of the word containers, if you will, how to separate and contain certain bits of information so that when the eye looks at it, if you look at any of my first year, second year, the first work, it was just like colors and chalk and rainbow and just too much. It was too much. But by dialing back color and using it more as an accent rather than a distraction, and the use of containers, I think, at least I hope I see it when I look at the progression of the work that I've done, is that now, it's a little more easy for the eye to see where to navigate to go next. But you still need to take, your time to make it around the entire plane of the visual.
Well, that's what I think is so interesting, is that these images are so dense. You sort of look at it and you're kind of like, okay, well, that's about, that topic. And it clearly has some sort of flow. But the little characters and the little cartoons and their little word bubbles, like that, for me, that's kind of, those are the parts that I really like, because it's some of the tiny little, factoids that you might put in there, or that quote that somebody said that was just like, wrapped up the whole conversation in a couple of words. I've always found that to be such a really wonderful part, and especially your tiny characters. Did you draw? Are you an drawing artist person?
I am someone who was always surrounded with pencils and tablets and creative supplies. I grew up in a family business where I had to stay occupied and entertained, and I had no choice or anywhere to go. And so like just notepads. I mean, I was just a ferocious writer. Even at like 6 and 7 years old, I was like, I'm going to be a journalist. That's all I wanted to do. I'm just writing and drawing was just comes to me compulsively, and I put it away. I've learned this and hearing about other people's journey who get into graphic recording. Somebody drew this map. It was like my early life. All I did was draw, and then there was like 15-year gap where I drew nothing. And here I am now, and I related to that a lot because I put it away. I put it on a shelf for the entire time, essentially, that I was in college. But before that, that was my shtick. That was like my trademark in high school, drawing little funny pictures of people talking to each other. And so flash forward all these years later, and I find out about graphic facilitation. I was just like, bingo.
Oh, I mean, it must work. I mean, it just works really well because there's an accessibility to your drawings. They're not, they're not like Michelangelo, and they're not extremely, God, what am I? They're caricatures, which makes it so much more easy for me to feel like, I can access this information. It's not above my head. There's sort of a cartoony element to it. And I find it just so inviting to look at. I'm just like drawn in to like, oh, tell me more, graphic facilitator. I'm going to pull up the other one. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
This one is very super special. I just finished it today.
I love it.
1 hour ago or 2 hours ago. So at the top to the left of the candle flame, there is a little section that says map key. And the map key is that all the yellow circles with the year signifies the year. And then the things like shooting off of that are the different events and milestones. And then there's this thread, this sort of connecting dot that goes from year to year to year. Again, see it much better whenever I post better pictures on social media or when you go to the actual show. But yeah, it's just kind of, I was like, what are the handful of highlights that happen each one of these years? And there were some like the TEDx talks and so many different things that become part of my annual schedule that like, I know this is the time of the year when I'm going to be here doing this. This is the month of June where I'm going to be doing the AUCD conference in Atlanta. And so having these groups again, like want to use it and expose their audiences over and over again. I mean, that's good stuff to me. So I wanted to, again, I'm celebrating my 5 years. So I thought this visual journey map is what I'm calling it would be a good way to show some of the high points that have happened.
What is the AUCD? What is that?
The Association of University Centers on Disability. So this is a nationwide network on most college and university campuses where there is a disability services office or program. This is a network of offices that really share the absolute best practices, voices of people who live with disabilities and who are well able to tell us, thank you very much, what we need to be moving on and working on and thinking about. I mean, it's just incredible to be a part of that group. Yeah, that's what AUCD stands for.
I mean, this is really just seeing this all. I mean, this is the first time I've seen this, and I'm just like,
can you see, how well can you see the details? I was worried about.
You can actually see them really well. So like I can show you since we're zooming.
Fantastic. Oh, there's the National Farm Machinery Man.
I mean, it looks great. I mean, I'm just like, this is really just incredible, just of an overview of the work that you've done. What was the National Farm Machinery Show?
It is the Olympics of the agricultural industry that
Tell me more.
Hundreds of thousands of people annually to a trade show in Louisville, Kentucky. And I was asked by this company to come and set up in a booth and be there. You know how they give out free t-shirts and swags and hats and all that kind of stuff. I came and had a sort of co-facilitator asking the people that came through the booth, share with us your favorite stories with this company. A lot of them had been generation long, patrons and loyal to this one company. And, tell us about what attachments you love the most and what attachments you wish that existed that do not exist currently. And then listen to what they did. They took that information and gave it to the product designers and used it to as like market research. And I thought the agricultural industry is
That's
finding graphic
clever.
facilitation relevant to how they are influenced in their future product lines. I mean, I just thought that was just the coolest, one of the coolest things to happen last year, which was a very busy year.
That's really
Isn't that
incredible
rad?
because I mean, you wouldn't expect, I don't know what to expect from agricultural industry, but I mean, that's like a sophisticated level of, of a feedback loop to create,
It
and
was
then to send that
absolutely
right back to the engineers and the designers, to work on that.
it was one of the most thoughtful uses. And whenever you know, think about the occasions when graphic facilitation has moved the actual needle forward, do you follow what I'm saying? When
Hmm.
it has really, really been a solution and not a fun extra add-on. But those moments that was one of them for me, was the use and the thoughtfulness of how to apply that process. And so that was a high point.
I love this. I'm gonna have to look at this graphic later, and you're gonna be posting this where? Where can we find this?
On my Facebook page, Instagram page, and eventually probably on my website, which needs some TLC.
Yeah, mine too. Websites always need TLC. They're just
Yeah.
like, they're never done and they always break. So we've just got a couple more minutes. It's about 6:30, so I don't want to leave. I don't want
Perfect.
to. So one thing that I always sort of think about is is graphic facilitation. Its connection to art and its connection to being a tool for a business. The way I see the work that you've done, and really, I think, no, I've seen graphic facilitation happen that you weren't doing. I was at an APTA conference, the American Public Transit Association, and they had a graphic facilitator, and it was a totally different style, but like very much the same.
Hmm.
And they were facilitating a conversation, that some transit people were having about transit. I can't even remember what it was, but it was really cool seeing one of you guys out in the wild. It's like, oh wow, Brittany actually is like doing something that other people do. So can you tell us more about like the connection between graphic facilitation, art, and business?
Clinton, the number of people who have come up to me at meetings, and this is that people say, did you invent this? Are you the only person that
Oh, that's
does
cute.
this? And I mean, because no, listen, seriously, one of my favorite and absolute most powerful things is being the first person who gets to shape and inform somebody's understanding of graphic facilitation, but also the deep historical, cultural function of visuals. And the act of scribing and the role of the scribe, from the walls of Egypt and to the carvings, the scribes were the people that documented the information and the processes. And so it was, there's some really deep historical meaning to this role. And one thing that I always am saying and always wanted people to understand is that graphic facilitators, they are, you can say they are artists and you can say they are talented, but it's about the listening. It's about the being able to hear a whole body of information, zero in on the 3, 4, or 5 things that
Yeah.
rose up top and spit out something in a minute. I mean, that is the skills. And the kind of the boldness to stand up and do it in a room full of people, because it's scary. It can be, like, and if anybody who's ever had a fear of public speaking, or even worse, like public singing, like that'll literally activate your limbic system to the point where you're like, and drawing publicly is like, when you first get started, it's not that different. So the listening and the boldness, I feel like, should predominate people's understanding, rather than like, oh, the artist and the artist. And I ask people actually that I work with to please refrain from saying the artists and work really hard to get people to like, you know, help people's understanding of it.
What word do you like?
Graphic facilitator.
All right. I think that, I mean, I think that makes much more
Or
sense
scribe.
because
And yeah, I take no, anytime that somebody says artist, like that's great, that's fine. I'm not
yeah,
like,
compliment is
sure.
nice.
But
Thank
like
you.
I realize that I can have intentionality around how I help people frame their thinking about this. So
Well, I know that when you did, what was I going to say? Yeah, no, you make it look really easy. I mean, you really do. You make it look really easy because I've sort of tried to, sort of doodle out some ideas, really just with myself as sort of like, oh, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do what Brittany does because totally, I got this. And then I start like doodling out some ideas and I'm like, oh, I'm so lost. I'm so frustrated. What you've got a special knack and a talent that I think you've been working on for 5 years of really listening really well, and that especially in meetings, you know, especially in meetings where people are trying to make decisions is so valuable. It's just having somebody that is going to listen and is fairly impartial, and isn't trying to like get their way, that they're just listening and able to like listen in, understand, and then communicate that information again, and do so in such a colorful and I also think static, which is really important. And so what I mean by that is that we've been talking for 35 minutes, and so somebody could watch this for 35 minutes and capture the whole thing. But if you were to be graphic facilitating this, then it becomes a static image that you can spend 10 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes looking at and gather a lot of information out of that.
hmm. And to add to that, though, also the element, I think people are so just to death of bullet points and PowerPoints. And so the personalization, the personalism, right? The somebody who is showing up and able to use all these different components of their understanding of their heart and mind to really personalize things is what attracts people to it. And I appreciate you saying it looks easy, but it's not.
Yeah. I mean,
But it's like, but when we open up our call, that's why the very first thing I said is I think I tapped into something that touches something that is, gift, talent, skill, interest, passion. Those are all different things. But for me, it's where they converge, like just naturally.
so where can okay, I think we're good now. Where can somebody find information, and how can people contact you?
I'm very easy to contact. Most of the work and most recent work, and I'm very Instagram active. Also very like InkyBrittany Facebook page active. And if you just send me a DM, we can just anybody. I've told people, if you have any questions, if you want to get involved, I enjoy so much being the one to introduce other people to for the first time who are just being touched by it. So yeah, find me on Instagram and check it out.
Great. Will do. All right. And I'll be sure to, or you and I should both make sure to share some of your pages on the links of this chit chat. And other than that, thank you for joining me, Brittany.
Thank you so much. And my
Yeah.
website, InkyBrittany.com. I didn't say that, but InkyBrittany.com.
All right. InkyBrittany.com. All right. That's important. All right. Very cool. Well, thank you again. Thank you for joining me on Chit Chat Civics.
Thank you.
Let's see. For everybody watching out here tonight, next week on Monday, I will be speaking with Lillian Williams, who's running for coroner here in Chatham County. And then on Wednesday, I'm meeting with, or virtually meeting with Kareem McMichael, who's a commissioner on Cultural Affairs Commission for the city of Savannah. So those should be some really great conversations about art and, I guess, end of life. We'll just say it like it is, art and death, which are two interesting conversations, and I'm looking forward to having them with two really great people. Brittany, thank you again
Thank
so
you.
much.
I really
Yeah.
appreciate you arranging this and
I mean,
letting
it's a
me
pleasure.
chat
It's
for
just
a
a
few
pleasure
minutes.
knowing you. So, yeah,
You're
anytime.
rock Clinton. I really appreciate you.
I try. Thank you again. All right, I'm ending the stream.
Okay. See y'all later.
Ciao.